Do you have much of a British identity, or to what extent are you aware of it?
I went through like a phase of being like, "Viva la British Empire" or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah, that was my 4chan poll phase.
Oh, really?
But
Okay, yeah,
nowadays,
you're.
nowadays I don't really care. I used to be like a minarchist. Like I, I saw the sort of what's the word, the importance of like an unelected head of state that sort of just keeps everything in check. But after all the scandals, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah, that's a
That was
heavy
when I was
burden.
like 17, 18 or something.
Okay. Where are you politically now? Libertarian? Are you anarchist?
I'm a pretty free as in freedom kind of guy.
Yeah.
Don't tread on me sort of thing.
Okay. Yeah.
But I'm not like heavy into politics or anything.
Yeah.
I'm not flying any flags.
Okay. What's your area of interest? Like, what do you geek out about nowadays?
Well, I've got 8 weeks left on my degree. I'm doing computer science, as is a lot of MTF people. It's a pretty common one. So yeah, hopefully I'll the last 8 weeks will be plain sailing. It's actually today was the last day of lectures before spring break. It's my last spring break ever, so that's kind of weird.
Unless you become a teacher.
Yeah, well, that was actually my plan. I wanted to be a teacher for a while, but the pay's getting not getting any higher, and the kids aren't getting any better. So I think that this generation is screwed.
Yeah, there's a lot of work to do on that. That's a big, huge issue. I mean, American school system, it's always been in the crapper. I mean, for a long time it's been in the crapper, but
Yeah,
with the ideological stuff that's going on, it's just very bothersome, if not worrisome.
I think everyone's going to come out of this pandemic. Like my baby brother started school last year, and he was like doing a week there, doing a week at home, sort of thing. And I think that it's going to have a pretty detrimental effect on like behavior.
Wait, you have a
Although he's a
brother?
really smart kid. Yeah, I have
He's
three
6 or 7?
brothers.
Oh, wow,
Yeah,
okay.
he's five. He's five actually.
And you're
Um,
the
he's
eldest?
yeah, I'm the oldest by like 6 years as well.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yeah, that's actually an interesting point. Is my younger brother, who's like immediately born after me, he was like a problem child. He had like a lot of behavioral issues, but I was like kept my mouth shut, like just was good as gold and like smart, so there was like no problems. But he got tested and he was apparently autistic, and I never got tested, even though like I didn't say any words until I was 3, and I like read the dictionary front to cover
Okay.
before I started school. And then the teacher's like, "What is this kid doing?" Um, but like I never got tested because I didn't pose any issues or anything.
But you
So
suspect that maybe you're
yeah,
neurodivergent in
I
that
think once I
direction?
graduate, which I've left it a bit late, if I want like support with my autism. But I think once I graduate, I'll be trying to pursue a diagnosis of some kind.
It's a big, the gender autism topic, it pops up every now and then. People kind of reference it.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't know the statistics on it. I heard like 30% of trans-identifying people are diagnosed or autistic or neurodivergent, but I don't know because a lot of people are undiagnosed. So
do you think that,
anecdotally, I would say,
yeah,
yeah.
how do you think that insofar as you have autism, to what degree did that influence your gender thinking, gender journey?
There was a lot of things that just didn't make sense to me, like gender norms. I remember because like I have random memories of stuff that doesn't really mean anything, but when I was like a kid, I really wanted one of those outdoor like houses with the kitchen with all the fake food inside, and that was like a girl's toy, right? And I was too scared to ask, but I didn't understand why that was a girl's toy. Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's just like a kitchen, you know? It's kind of cool. You get like a fake little pan. Um,
Yeah,
but
it's
like, yeah,
my
I did.
boy's first food cart kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, I really didn't want to step out of line. So if something was the way it was, I didn't say anything when I was little. Um,
But that just grew. You noticed that there was discrepancies between your desires and your feelings
yeah, for
and
sure. Yeah.
depictions of them.
Yeah. That was when I was like really little. And then things like started getting more obvious and like things started happening like puberty, or not really puberty, but like technology uh outsped the puberty. Okay, let should we get onto the porn conversation very early?
Oh yeah, okay. Let's get into that.
um Actually, before I get onto that, I want to describe a scenario that happened to me um when I was 5 years old. And if there are any like child psychologists watching this like podcast, or listening, sorry, it's a podcast, they might like get a kick out of this. So when I was 5, I was like hanging out with, I was just starting school, right? So I was just finding my place in society, I guess. And I was hanging out with like, because in preschool it's like 3 and 4 year olds, whatever. And then when you go to school, you're mixing with like everyone from 5 to 11 years old. Um, and I was mixing with a lot of older kids because they were like cool, and they were having like, they were trading Pokemon cards. I got into Pokemon cards, and they were like playing with Tamagotchis. It was like 2002 or something, right? Um, so yeah, I wasn't really making friends though. So it was just like me. I was just like this cute little kid hanging out with all these older kids playing with their Pokemon cards. But I don't like it all happened in a flash, but I was just talking to someone who was older, like a group of people, and out of nowhere, like a really older kid, like he was 10, 11 years old, like hurtled towards me, like ran towards me as fast as he could and just like pushed me to the ground. This is what I remember of it, like, and I hit my head on the concrete. So that was like my first time going to hospital and stuff, but I think that's a situation. I don't know if it like had any effect on my brain or something, if I hit it in a certain way, but I think that situation led to like a distrust of boys in general throughout my whole like school life, and still like I don't really. Well,
Boys are gross.
Yeah, kind of, but I I don't want to say I never made any male friends, because I had very few friends in school, but like 2 of them are male, 1 of them was female, like it's normal ratio. So I don't know to what extent that like subconsciously got into my head after that.
Yeah, boys will be boys. I mean, they're just difficult to. Well, you have to have your guard up a lot, so it could lead to a situation like that, and other situations just cause you to not want to be vulnerable because you don't know
Yeah.
what threat they pose.
I mean, I was always like a femme kid, you know. I was like the punching bag. I was very small. I'm still small. I'm 5 feet tall, but like when I was 11, starting like middle school or whatever you guys call it in America, I was like 3'9", going into middle school.
Okay.
So I don't think it was like a delayed puberty thing that I'm 5 feet tall now. I think I'm just always destined to be tiny. But
Yeah.
and I was not like very masculine. And then when puberty hit, I was like, oh shit, I'm gay. That happened. So yeah, like a lot of things. But
Technology.
yeah, we're gonna talk about porn. So another scenario that happened when I was at school. This is like a therapy session. This shouldn't be like a therapy session, but like I feel like I need to like get this backstory out there so that people can understand where I'm coming from.
Well, yeah, and I want to preface that, or just give some context. There's internet chatter. So there's the detransitioner. It's not really a community, but a bunch of detransitioners and a bunch of different personalities within that, actual people, but they have a web presence, and so therefore they are a personality. There's a bunch of discourse about that. They are in a very interesting, odd political position because they are politicized, because you have the gender
Yeah.
critical people and then the TRA people, and they kind of strategically place the detransitioners here and there. And one thing that wells up with the gender critical side, because it is it houses a lot of explicit radical feminists. Radical feminists have certain attitudes generally about men, more specifically about male sexual behavior, and then
Tell
explicitly
me about
about
it.
pornography. And so male detransitioners are even further marginalized because it is assumed that there's some sort of sexual compulsion that's going on here that's perverted or autogynephilic or porn
Right.
addled, sissy porn, all that stuff. So that's a part of the discussion, and it needs to be disaggregated because porn
Yeah.
does have a very powerful effect on humans and specifically on males. And it does have some sort of basis in trans ideology somewhere. There's a lot of pornography in
Absolutely.
certain sectors of that. But so I just want to put that in context. Now you're going to tell your story.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to get onto like porn and autogynephilia and all these things. I don't know if I'm an autogynephile. Maybe people can tell me once I'm finished telling my story about this. I do want to say real quick before I get onto that about the politics. I can't bring myself to vote for a party that can't tell me what a woman is anymore. But I'm not a conservative, so I guess that's a pretty awkward conversation situation to be in. So, but that I draw the line at not being able to tell me what a woman is, like full stop. So anyway, porn. So when I was 9 years old, there was this new kid at school, and he'd moved here from the city. He come from London, and this is like a rural area. There was, not much diversity in my school. It was super white, even though it was like really working class, like not very rich or anything. It was still super white. So this kid, he was also white. That's not like an issue or anything. But he was like he got expelled from his previous school. He got like thrown out because of his behavior. I later found out that he had autism. And we got on quite well to begin with because we were into like the same video games. Like everyone else in the class was into like I think Call of Duty was just coming out for the first time, and everyone was playing online games. And me and this kid, what should I call him? I think in my essay I called him Alex. I'll call him Alex. So me and this kid, we were into like Mario and Pokemon and stuff like that instead, and we weren't really competitive. So we got on really well, and we were talking every day. And he was still like really poorly behaved. Like he would, kill animals and shit. Like he was messed up. And he would like throw rocks at cars that would drive. There was like a gate outside the school at the end of the school field that we could like poke our hands through, and he would like throw rocks at cars driving past. It was really messed up. I was just like I just like dissociated whenever like he did some crazy shit. Like I was not looking. But like I had a friend like finally. I didn't want to let go of that. Anyway, I think YouTube had just come out as well. Like we were watching random videos, and then he told me that he found a new website that was a lot like YouTube but had more interesting videos. And that website was a porn site. It was RedTube. Now that's an interesting name for someone who's just found out about YouTube, and then he tells me it's called RedTube. Anyway, I go home and I look it up, and it's porn. I don't know this. Okay, so I'm 9 years old, and this is the first time I've ever seen the female anatomy. I knew that girls didn't have like a penis, but I didn't know what they had instead.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was like, it wasn't arousing to me. Like I was nowhere near starting puberty yet, but
Was it confusing, disgusting, shocking?
it was intriguing. It was like I was obsessed with it. I actually became obsessed with it. Like it was not like arousing. I wasn't like getting off to it. It was I was like hyper fixated on it. Like I wanted to learn all about the female anatomy, and like I wasn't looking like, obviously it's pretty scarring for like your first time seeing what a woman looks like is with two penises inside of her. Like, it's messed up. Pornography is messed up. Internet porn is nothing like, you know,
The real
anything
stuff.
before it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this was in 2007, and I was like I wasn't on dial-up necessarily, but I was on like, a less than a megabit connection, and I was accessing this. So to any parents out there, like, that's how easy it was then. How easy is it now? So yeah, that was my first run-in with porn, and I like became really obsessed with this, learning about the other half of the population. Let me say that.
And did you end up looking at the scientific literature on that, or looking into biology, or was it specifically through that media?
To whatever extent a 9-year-old can. I mean, I wasn't like advanced, but I was actually looking at biology books and stuff about that. But just before this situation, before the whole pornography thing, there was another situation with Alex where the night before there was a TV show about a transsexual person getting a makeover, and I saw that show. He saw that show, and he told me the next day at school, "Oh, did you see that show?" And then he said, apparently, trans people can take a pill that makes their dick shrink into a vagina. And without hesitation, the first thing I said to him was, "I'm going to do that when I'm older." I have no idea why I said that. That's just like a very vivid memory. Like, with all things that have happened since considered, that's stuck in my head. I didn't even know what like a vagina was at that time. So because I would call that obsession that I got with female anatomy, I would call that some form of autogynephilia, maybe, because like I wanted one, but I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why.
Well, just for context, what other things did you get obsessed about? Did you have a pattern of getting obsessed about different topics or things, or was this kind of very novel?
Just hobbies that I was into, like Pokemon, just whatever video game, and I wasn't really nothing that's comparable to that kind of thing. I guess I would spend my evenings, because my mum used to send me to bed really early, so it was like still light outside, so I wouldn't sleep, and I would just spend the whole time reading whatever book I could find, like about space or whatever, But nothing was like as impactful as, because porn is pretty impactful the first time you see it if you're just a little kid. So I have no doubt that had like a profound impact on my emotional development, I guess.
Well, when puberty begins, and you said that you realized that you were gay, when eroticism and desire starts to actually become a salient part of your existence and experience, how do you deal with that, and how does that inform your personality, your gender identity, so-called?
My family is not homophobic in the slightest, but my school was pretty rough. I already got bullied for being like girly and tiny. Like I was, like I said, I was 4 feet tall when I started big school, I guess, because we don't have like elementary, middle, high. We just have primary and secondary, and then college.
So you're thinking 7th or 8th grade or year?
Yeah, like 11 years old, 12 years old.
Okay.
And like they would do a lot of horrible things to me because they perceived me as gay, and I was like, inside I was like, yeah, I am gay, but like that's got nothing to do with my femininity. That's about what gets me aroused, That's a pretty easy measurement to figure out that you're straight or gay, I guess.
But did pornography, your taste or your predilection for pornography change when your sexuality became active? So you knew you were gay, but you're
I
still fascinated with women. Kind of odd.
I never consumed pornography in a um, erotic way.
Okay.
Like I had this obsession
Yeah.
with like women's bodies until I was like again 12 or 13, and then I was like, this is gross, like because it was kind of like a traumatic thing for me. Yeah, I still have an issue with, okay, this is actually too personal, so maybe I shouldn't say it, but I have an issue with sex now. I'll just leave it there. Some people might call it asexuality. I call it a mixture of OCD and trauma that maybe people should work on, but I'm
There's
still working
time.
through that. So
There's
I don't
time.
have advice to give people about that.
We're all unless you're stuck in development, we're all processing things. So
Yeah, I I suspect that I have had some kind of endocrine disorder, like low testosterone, before I started transitioning.
Mhm.
Uh, I had like male gynecomastia before I started transitioning.
What's
I was
that?
very small. That's male breast development.
Oh, okay.
Um, yeah, before I started hormones, I didn't have much of a sex drive, like erotically. You know, I was obsessed with porn, but I wasn't like getting off to it at all. And I found it scary, pornography.
Hmm.
Um, and as a result, I found sex scary. Uh, and like I didn't grow like a single shred of facial hair until I was 18. So,
Are you in your family? Are you the shortest, or are you short folk generally?
oh no, I'm by far we're not short folk. I'm super
Okay.
short, just
Okay.
short,
Yeah.
short, short.
All right. That does sound like endocrine issues, but when we get
Well,
into
my
the
mum is
medical,
short, but she's an average height for a woman,
yeah,
right? I'm
yeah,
not a woman.
yeah. But I mean, so when eventually we get to the part of your story where you get on hormones, which I assume is something we're going to talk about, the doctors don't check this out. They don't do any readings or anything like that before
So the
giving you the
problem with
magic
this is,
pill.
and this is why I don't know if I had an endocrine disorder, because if I went through the doctors to begin with, they would have tested me for that. Like they would have done a blood test, but I got groomed online into starting all by myself off the dark web instead.
Oh, okay,
Yeah,
okay.
I mean, I'm
Well,
not proud of that.
well, it's
It's just how it was.
yeah, that's a dangerous it's a dangerous world out there, but that's kind of an interesting way of getting into this. And why would you not just go to the doctor if it's pretty easy to access?
Um, in the UK, we actually have to go on a waiting list.
Oh, okay.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not, we don't have like Planned Parenthood or anything like that.
Okay.
Um, I so okay, maybe we should turn this back to when I started thinking I was trans,
Yeah.
which was when I was about 13, 14. Um, and I actually so this, what I said earlier about like wanting to take that pill that Alex mentioned that doesn't exist. Well, I guess it kind of does exist. Estrogen shrinks your penis, but it doesn't turn it into a vagina. That's a surgery, um, which doesn't also turn it into a vagina. I'll get onto that later. Um, um, so I spent that time like thinking maybe in the back of my head, oh, I really want to take that pill. But it wasn't like a reality until I met a transsexual person online, and that was what year would that have been? I would have been 13. I actually met this person on a Pokemon forum, not on like an erotic porn site or anything, or not on 4chan. It was just, you know, a Pokemon fan forum, um, where we talked about innocent things. And this person took an interest in me. They were like streaming games on online, like live streams were just popping up, and I was doing that. And they would like help me, you know, with my gameplay or whatever. They would like, you know, stop by every day, say hello. This person was like 23. when I was 13. Um, I didn't know that until they revealed more information about them. To me, they were just like a viewer until we got like talking more often. And then eventually they added me on Skype, and well, I'm sure you can guess that. Yeah, I got involved in their like group of friends, which were all older as well. Yeah.
And so, just for outside context, was this like a novel friend group? Was there something about you finding society, even though it's virtual, that was fulfilling a need that wasn't being met in real life?
Yeah, I didn't really have any like intimacy outside of online friends at this point in my life. I was bullied at school, so when I come home from school and go on the computer and everyone's nice to me, it's you end up relying on that connection with people. And I still have all my friends online to this day. Not the same set of friends, like Jesus Christ, but yeah, that was important to me when I was, just a teenager figuring out myself.
Yeah.
And there were some great people on there. Like, this person was sinister and did horrible things to me, but there were some other great people that I met that were not that much older. Some of them were adults, and they were like, like not talking to me. Like they would more casually offer advice, because this was like a community of people who played the game competitively.
Mm-hmm.
So that, like, offering advice to people is obviously a big thing.
Wait, what's competitive Pokemon? I guess it's the card game, but it's online.
Have you heard of speedrunning?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah. That's another trans community.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say like 30% of speedrunners are trans.
Oh, okay. Interesting. Yeah, I've been watching the Elden Ring speedruns, seeing how they do that.
Yeah.
It's pretty interesting stuff.
I don't have a computer that can play Elden Ring, but it looks pretty cool.
It's pretty cool.
So yeah.
So there's these Pokemon games. People are speedrunning, which for the audience members is where you try to get to the end of the game as fast as possible, and you do shortcuts.
We're coming up with strategies like, if I, do this, if I this is the quickest path through this area. Oh, if I this. So you use a move, and then it tells you like what move it is. It prints it out character by character, but two moves might do the exact same amount of damage, but one of them's got less characters in its name, so that one's faster. Like,
oh yeah,
really intricate, like detailed mapping out of how to beat the game as quickly as possible, stuff like that. So we obviously, it's a community where people are all sharing strategies, like left, right, and center. People are comparing their times to each other. It's actually a really positive community, but in any online community, there's always bad eggs. So, and I unfortunately got caught by the bad eggs.
Not the infrastructure to, or safeguarding in these communities.
No,
they're just picket groups.
Because, I mean, at the end of the day, every online community is pretty libertarian by default.
Yeah.
Like, it's kind of like Lord of the Flies. Just someone starts up. Well, nowadays it would be a Discord server. Back then it was a PHP BB forum.
Yeah.
But yeah, any old schmuck can run their community, and things go under the radar.
So you're 13, and you have this. You already have this thought in your head about this magic pill and some sort of desire to be a woman. Do you have that desire, or that idea, and if you do, what is informing that?
At this point in time, like Tumblr feminism is starting to pick up, and I keep hearing these like ideas that men are toxic, men are evil, and that kind of fed into. I kind of, I thought, well, I hope I'm not. That doesn't really make sense to me, because I haven't done anything. I'm just, playing my Game Boy or whatever, right? Leave me alone. So
but you absorb this negativity towards men, or you at least were aware of it?
I already, because the thing is, you can tell me all of these things about how toxic men are, and I wouldn't believe you unless I had experienced it, from the men in my life, right? So I don't want to call out my mum or anything. We actually have a very strong relationship, but her taste in partners was less than stellar, and I went through like a abusive stepdad after abusive stepdad, on an annual basis. So that was not like
Okay.
that kind of reinforced the feminist sort of mantras of men are toxic, men are evil. I was like, I guess I'll be a woman then. Like pretty quickly. Once I met this trans person online and I found out that they were trans and they'd actually they'd taken the pill that Alex told me about. I was like, oh shit, I could actually do that. It wasn't like a realistic thing to me. I wasn't looking up anything to do with trans until I actually met a trans person and they were telling me that it's actually realistic.
Mm-hmm. And that was in the context, I guess, later on down the road, and you guys were already talking to each other, voice chat and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So you're getting pretty close.
We actually tapered off after a couple of years because they invited me to like this secret Twitter account they had, and it was pretty graphic, the stuff that was on there.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, nope. Not my thing, but that didn't get rid of the trans thoughts. That was just like, oh, this one person. Because at that point, by the time this happened, and I was like noping out of that person, I was already talking to other people. So I didn't even consider that was one of the first people that got into contact with me until I was like backtracking through my life when I was just thinking about detransition. But that person solicited pictures of me as well. And
okay.
That's pretty difficult to deal with because yeah. It's pretty difficult to deal with because I don't know how far and wide those pictures have traveled nowadays.
Yeah. Are they one second, I can still hear.
No worries.
Cat is always on the wrong side of the door. So, what about romance at this time? Are you getting crushes on people?
Not really. I don't understand the whole thing at this point. It's kind of like foreign to me, and I'm scared of sex, and I don't really know what relationships are about. I don't understand them. Like, my mum's having bad relationships, so I guess I don't want to be involved. But deep down, I really longed for some level of intimacy because I wasn't, feeling that. And these people online were love bombing me, and that was like a new experience for me. That was basically, I guess, an analogous feeling to being in your first relationship, right?
But it's crowdsourced.
Yeah, I guess, yeah. And they were all telling me that I'm so pretty and whatever.
Okay, so this is no longer the Pokemon community, or is this some sort of subset?
This is that person's friend group that I eventually got invited to.
Okay.
And then there was another game after that, which if I mention the name of, a bunch of mums and dads watching will, like, the Metal Gear Solid alert sound, like with an exclamation mark above their head. Once I mention the name of this game, they're all going to go crazy. I don't know if I should.
This is like a My Little Pony speedrunning?
No. This is should I talk about this? This is like such like a nerdy conversation.
No, let's be nerdy. This is the boys' time. Boys get to be nerdy here, and it's not a stereotype. It's just how we are. So
there's an online rhythm game that's been out since 2007, and I started playing it in 2009.
DDR?
Called... I do actually play DDR, but this was not the game. Angus Fox in what... Rhythm? Wordle? I don't know. Angus Fox mentioned in one of his interviews that all of the ROGD boys that he's spoken to the parents of were all playing this one anime game, and I had that, I know what the game is. It's called Osu.
Okay.
It's a game where it's a very community-based game.
Yeah.
So people upload a song, they make a level for that song where all you have to do is click the circles to the beat. That's it. Like the circles are arranged across the screen, and you got to move your mouse and click on it to the beat, right? And some of them are like you got to drag and click and hold and drag and circle along a track. And like the skill ceiling is really high, so obviously you can get like very high spacing, high speed levels, right? So it's a very community oriented game. A lot of people are. It's one of the nicest communities I've ever been a part of. But you know, like I mentioned about the last community I talked about, the Pokemon speedrunning community. There's always bad actors, and this game has had a fair few of people being outed as pedophiles and all these kind of things. And groomers and whatever horrible stuff you can get away with online because it's anonymous. And I'm completely for internet anonymity, but I think one day parents will be educated on this kind of thing, and then we can have anonymity. But yeah, it was just like a really friendly community. People showing their favorite songs, making levels, making like skins, competing for the high score on whatever song. But there was a forum, and there was like a weird thread called "Post Your Legs," and I think it started as a joke. Like some really hairy Finnish guy posted a picture of his legs, and then like 500 pages later, people are soliciting pictures from girls on here, and it's like not really moderated because it's in the off-topic section, and no one really. It's like a trash can subforum. But yeah, one of the active posters on that section on the Post Your Legs thread. So do you remember MySpace? How you used to be able to like have a completely custom profile, and you can put whatever links you want on the profile and like text colors and whatever. This game has that for everyone's profile, so you've just got a completely custom space. And what this person, one of these people did was, they were a very prominent member of the community. They made a lot of shit. I shouldn't like mention this specifically because it will out who they are. But they were prominent, and they gave advice to people who wanted to transition if they asked for it. And they promoted transition as a very good idea. And yeah, I'll leave it at that.
And you found that through the Post Your Legs thing, and then you received advice. Is this where kind of the transition gets to the next level in your head? And your thinking?
Yeah, because they were posting like, here's where to get hormones online, right? So this was 2014 now, and I came out as trans to my mum, and she was like, okay, wait until you finish school because they're going to tear you apart. So I finished school at 16 and then went to college. I guess we call college high school, and then what you call college is university. So I went to college, and I just like day one, it was a new group of people. It was a new part of town. And I was just trans from that point on, I was stealthing, trying my best to.
What does trans mean to you at this point when you're 16?
I was going by a new name. I was...
Okay.
I didn't explicitly say she, her pronouns, I was like trying to stealth it. I didn't want to draw attention to myself.
But then why be trans? Like, what's the content of being trans to you?
Well, I didn't want to be male. I didn't want to be seen as male, and it distressed me greatly as like changes were happening to my body. I guess we could start talking about gender dysphoria, but I don't like to use the term gender dysphoria. Sorry, because it's kind of abstract. I prefer trans OCD because I do think it is a manifestation of OCD. entirely, front to back.
An
You know,
obsessive compulsive fixation on your characteristics, your body,
yeah,
specifically your
like,
your secondary sex characteristics.
yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
And I, I just, I can only describe it as a compulsion to. I really felt the need and desire to just rip the testosterone out of my body. I didn't want anything to do with manhood or masculinity or anything like that. And obviously, these thoughts had compounded ever since I was 9 years old. And I was like, oh, I want the pill. And then when I was 12 and Tumblr feminism, or 13, 14, whatever, Tumblr feminism was coming up. And then I realized transition is possible. And I already hated my body. And every male characteristic about myself, because I was bullied heavily for being gender non-conforming and, like, how do I say this? Well, just feminine, right? And what they call gay. I didn't tell them that I was gay, but I was gay. And they called me gay for being feminine, which my autistic brain didn't really, like, see the connection between femininity and homosexuality. That didn't really make sense to me. But I thought I just had to be a girl.
And so you were, to the best of your ability, or, I mean, what does being a girl mean?
Well, you're asking me. After having detransitioned. Because being a girl means to be born a girl. Well, we can get into, like, intersex conditions or whatever, but I don't think that's relevant.
Not really relevant.
As far as, 99.9% of the population is concerned, to be a girl is to be born with XX chromosomes. Mm-hmm. But in my head, obviously it's very stereotyped, but not consciously, because, I was confused because I was wondering why I act the way I do. Mm-hmm. And
so did you change your behavior at all? You just changed your name? Did you...
I just changed my name.
Other than the pill, other than the the hormonal stuff, did you change the way you walked? Did you change the pitch of your voice? Did you spend time on your appearance other than maybe changing your, putting makeup on? And what was the ritual or the value of feminine clothing, if that's what you adopted?
Well, I did start dressing more in a more feminine manner. Like I said before, like, I always had a desire for feminine things, but I never had the goal to ask for them. But yeah, I started dabbling in makeup out of my own pocket. Like, I didn't ask my mum for anything. I'm sure she would have been happy, but, like, her biggest concern was, how am I going to explain this to your annual stepdad every year? Mm-hmm. Not to throw her under the bus or anything, but I hope she never watches this. Yeah, I kind of just did it all on my own. Like, I in my head, I knew what I wanted, so I went out and got it. What I wanted was to no longer be male. Obviously, that's impossible, but I thought that was possible because I thought, I had a pink brain or whatever, female brain and male body. I bought into, like, the true scum ideology pretty quickly.
Which is medical transition. There's some people's brains are wired like women,
I wasn't, like, into I wasn't into, like, the whole non-binary thing.
Okay. And so the true scum is not, it's a very specific type of transsexual ideology. And there's other kinds of transsexual ideology that are more about, like, this huge gender spectrum and fluidity and all this stuff. Yeah. But true scum, which are reviled among the other gender ideologues because they say, no, this is a physical thing. There's a material basis to it, right?
Right.
So that kind of anchors it. And so you adopted that, and you weren't really social about it. You weren't an activist about it. It was just something that you wanted to do, and you didn't seek medical advice. You just, to what degree did you research the hormones and their effect, and what was your
I
relationship
wasn't
with the
on
drugs?
hormones at this point. I was very well behaved and waited until I was 18. So I started college when I was 16 and I was presenting female, and I changed my name and I started dressing up. I did change my voice. I can't do the voice anymore if I tried. But well, it would take a lot of effort. I would have to speak really loudly.
It's higher
Yeah.
higher pitched.
Yeah, like
So-
I have to have like there's like
Yeah.
another place register that my voice goes to.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was trying to the best of my ability anyway. And not telling anyone, and people just taking it because my name was female, so, and I looked very female, so I must be female.
Did it add much stress or distraction to your life, or did it relieve?
To begin with, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I stopped being bullied. Like people
Okay.
weren't, because like I had a lot of I guess undesirable characteristics for a male, but like perfectly normal for a female. So people weren't because like I used to get my shoes stolen because I quote enjoyed dance class too much. That was one thing that happened. Or like they used to make us play rugby in gym class. Like all the boys were separated and we were made to play rugby while girls just had like a fun gym session. And I pretended that I didn't know how to read so that I could get extra reading classes during gym class session.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's something. This is a side point, but I've noticed in speaking with Brits, that's not a slang. That's not derogatory, is it?
Brits.
In your mind?
No,
Brits,
that's fine.
limeys. When I'm speaking to the limeys over the last few years, especially about the gender topic with feminists and males, there's a different attitude towards gender in the UK than there is in America, and it just seems like the amount of gender-based bullying is much greater than I've seen growing up in California. We're a little bit
Really?
loosey-goosey. It's not as prominent, but maybe I was I just wasn't aware of it. But there's a lot of gender-based stuff. It seems like it's a little bit more intense.
Worse here than it is in the US?
It seems like that, but maybe it's just because I grew up in a pretty relaxed
Yeah.
California environment, which is kind of liberal and Christian,
Well,
but still.
My interpretation of American society is based on like sitcoms that we would import, so I have no idea.
Okay.
But
yeah. That's just a side note. We can move on.
yeah,
from there, so.
I can only speak to my own experience, and it was pretty difficult for me to deal with. So
Yeah. And that was relieved when you transitioned. You became
Yeah.
a non-starter. Like nobody really paid you much mind.
just a
and you
regular
weren't-
girl. Instead of
Yeah.
being a weird guy, I was just a regular girl.
Huh.
Although I was, quite ironically, I was the only female in my computer science class, which is not very surprising. Which I'm not female at all, so even funnier. But
It's more likely that there's such a thing as a coder brain than a female brain. We were talking
Maybe.
about tree scum. I think that it takes a certain type of wiring to be able to really speak in that language and build those kind of things. But not that
I think I
anybody
cottoned
can't
on to.
learn.
Sorry, I think we've got a bit of a delay between us because of the ping or whatever, California to the UK. So I might have been talking over you this whole time. But I think the reason why I cottoned on so easily to true scum ideology is because it's the same line of thinking that got me through like reconciling with my homosexuality before I was trying to reconcile with my transgender identity. Was okay, I'm just born this way, I'm just born gay, so maybe I'm also born trans, which is ludicrous considering a process actually has to take place in order for someone to be trans. But like the gender dysphoria is innate. That was, and the best remedy for that is to transition. It was my ideology, and a lot of these people are transitioning without dysphoria, and I was super mad about that. But
And so
I'm sure
your gender dysphoria, did you say on one level you didn't want to be a man, but on another level, like you were disgusted by your physical body, or not disgusted? I don't
Absolutely.
know what word. So you were,
Yeah.
And then was that relieved by dressing up or not? Dressing is the opposite.
Well, the problem is it relieved it in some ways, but then my brain just moved on to another part of my body or another aspect to myself. Like, once I was 6 years transitioned, I was like, my brain was really focusing on the below parts, and that's kind of what snapped me out of it, because once I started researching like the whole surgery site aspect of things, like seriously, taking it seriously, and a lot of things led to, I don't know, me kind of peaking by looking at surgery results and stuff. Like there was one video by Mr. Medica called "How the Sausage is Made," which goes into very graphic detail about trans surgeries, and that kind of it made me really depressed, because at this point I still thought that this was in my future, but I was kind of doubting it because, well, I realized that what you're getting is not a vagina, it's a penile inversion. And I guess I was sold on a lie the whole time, even though I started DIYing, so it's not like I had a doctor to tell me at the beginning that the road doesn't end in womanhood, it ends in eunuchhood, I guess.
Had you any access or desire to have access to psychological help or talking therapy?
Once I turned 18 and I was about to start university, and I grew my first bit of facial hair, and I was like, that's it, I'm getting on the waiting list for the gender clinic. But that was going to take 2 years at that point, and they wanted 2 years of lived experience, but I already had 2 years of lived experience, so I was just waiting 2 years. Usually, like, the 2 years lived experience is the 2 years that you're on the waiting list, but I already had the 2 years, but I wasn't on the waiting list. Anyway, so yeah, I just thought, fuck it, I've already had the 2 years, I guess this is right for me, I'm gonna DIY it. So once I turned 18, that's what I did.
What's the process of DIY for you?
You just need to know the website you need to go to, buy some cryptocurrency, and then obtain question mark profit, you know.
Yeah. And do you know the dosage? Do you know, I mean, how do you know what to do?
So I was a 4chaner at this time. I kind of like to talk about that, because like when all this misandry was going on with like Tumblr feminism at the time, that was my escape. And I met a bunch of guys who had the same problem, and they all got turned into pink pilled. Basically got pink pilled.
What's pink
each
pill?
other. That's convinced to transition.
Things? Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah. So they were all convincing each other to transition and saying, this is the best path for us. You know, we were all soft boys, exactly like me, like gay soft boys, I guess, on 4chan LGBT. And we were all just saying, you know, every day I watched it change from just regular gay threads to, right, everybody, let's transition threads, like over the course of like 2 years, you know.
What 2 years, chronologically speaking?
Like 2014 to that kind of era, you know, peak Tumblr feminism.
Yeah, I remember that from a completely different point of view, but it's really interesting. So there was like a social contagion. Somehow the trans
on 4chan
solution became very salient to many people at the same time, specifically males.
Yeah.
Gay soft boys, as you say.
Yeah, we all like went to our because Tumblr and 4chan are like, it's like horseshoe theory. It's basically the same website, but one's for women and one's for men. But you know, this was our space, and we all collectively convinced each other to transition.
So it wasn't. There wasn't. Was there grooming? It sounds like it was just kind of crowdsourced. Was there? It was
kind of just like a fraternity of.
Yeah.
I don't know if I call it grooming, but like, because it wasn't. It was very impersonal. You know, no one has a username on 4chan. It's not like anyone has clout. So it was just a general vibe, I guess.
Okay. And that's how you found out to get the pill.
Yeah, there's you could go there right now, and there's a like mega thread on everything you need to know about DIYing,
Okay.
dosages, side effects, places to buy.
Okay. So with I want to do dosages and then side effects from the 4chan point of view. How do you know your dosage? Do you weigh yourself? Do you spit into a tube and send it to some sort of dark lab in Singapore? And then they're like, here, this is what you need.
You can get a blood test safely and legally for any reason. You can just order that from a private company.
Did you do that? You just
No, I
got
didn't.
your blood. Oh, okay.
I mean, irresponsible on me. I was like a fucking idiot. So,
Well, how do you know
I
your
don't know.
dosage then? How did you calculate
well, I
that?
just started with a low dosage.
Oh, okay. And then just see what happens?
Yeah, I mean, they tell you, oh, don't exceed this dosage. I was like, okay, I won't.
Okay. And so from before you started, what was your knowledge of side effects?
Whatever they put on the mega thread, like, they had a selection of anti-androgens and estrogen application methods that tell you how each one works and what the side effects of each drug were, potential side effects, and being brainwormed, you will safely ignore all of those things and just take it anyway.
Did you choose a specific one?
Yeah, I chose cyproterone acetate, which is not FDA approved in the US. I don't believe it's meant for prostate cancer. The
So
biggest
this is a
side
blocker.
effect, yeah, it's a testosterone blocker, anti-androgen. The biggest side effects is benign brain tumors. But I guess I just safely ignored that.
Okay. Well, you said you already had a brain worm, so it was covering up the
not
brain worm.
literally.
I know.
Yeah, and then the estrogen. Well, the side effect is growing tits. Congratulations.
There you go. Tits up. So you did anti-androgens and estrogen.
Yeah,
Okay.
and I stayed on the lowest dosage that the whole time until I actually got through to the gender clinic, and then they just all they did was prescribe me Cypro and up my estrogen dosage.
Oh, okay. So, okay. Before we get
Well,
to the
they
gender
gave me a
clinic,
slap on the wrist. they gave me a very stern look for doing it myself,
yeah.
and they were like, "Well, I guess we have to help you still."
So, but what were the side or what was the experience of estrogen and anti-androgens for that period of time while you were waiting?
Well, the thing is, I already had a very low T levels, I think.
Yeah.
I never got tested, but I'm pretty sure I had low T's. So I went from, I don't want to say the word, sex drive wise. I went from like every 2 weeks to not doing it for 6 years.
Oh, okay. So you were really asexual and then just strictly experiential.
I mean, before I was like once every 2 weeks anyway. Like that's less than average, I would say.
Yeah. Those are rookie numbers. Again,
Please.
This is boy chat. And then the estrogen?
Exactly as expected.
Just a little extra
inner body
top.
hair, boobs,
fat distribution.
penile atrophy.
Pain?
Oh, I actually had no pain. I actually had really wide hips before I started as well.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, there's actually a picture of me with all my friends like last year, lined up against the wall, like doing a pose. We were like copying like an album cover. So we were all lined up against the wall next to each other, and I stick out like a small thumb because I'm 5 feet tall and I've got like these wide hips. I'm not like this was after detransition, but I mean, obviously, I still present very feminine. I don't see how that's a problem at all. But yeah, I'd stick out like a sore thumb. It's pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. But did it affect you psychologically? You start crying?
People
emotions?
Well, I actually was a
stuff?
very emotional person before. Like,
Okay,
I went from crying once every other day to crying every day.
Now, those aren't rookie numbers. Wait, your emotional outbursts, and I don't mean that derogatorily, they decreased on estrogen? You
No,
had
they
less
increased
emotional. Okay, so you had more emotional expression, and was
very
that stress
slightly.
related or like doggy in a Allstate, which is an insurance company commercial kind of thing, just like drop of the hat style stuff, or is that just how you processed everything?
Instead of violence, I would just cry.
Okay.
Like I don't really understand this. This is another thing that alienated me from masculinity and manhood was, there's this stereotype of guys breaking their PlayStation controllers and punching the walls and stuff, and I would just cry instead.
Oh, okay. When you didn't get the speed run under 25 minutes.
Yeah. No, no, I'm generally quite zen, but like, I'll
Okay.
cry at the smallest thing that
Huh.
doesn't actually matter.
Huh. Okay. You're are you artistic at all? Was there artistic expression from this, or are you pretty tech minded, STEM minded, and yet
I'm
very
very STEM minded.
STEM minded
I'd like
with
to
a
be,
high emotionality?
yeah,
Huh.
yeah, very much the latter. I would like to be artistically minded, but it's not working. I spent in my last year of college or high school, whatever you want to call it, like 17 to 18, we did like a class project where we made a video game from scratch, and I kind of got a bit of experience making graphics, but it was all terrible. So what I ended up doing was, because it was a group project, and I was the best programmer in the class, I just enslaved the rest of the class into making graphics for me. So that was pretty pretty chill.
Hmm.
But I tried and failed to.
I just wonder because that's one way of processing or dealing with emotionality is to have an artistic disposition. So it's just
Really let it
interesting.
out on a piece of paper.
I don't know. I'm very emotional. I ended up just being
Yeah,
a poet for a long time until I found this podcast life.
that's pretty good. It's
But
pretty
yeah,
cool.
I do music too. But that's just how I
That's another thing I
interact with
can't.
stuff. Yeah.
That's another thing I can't get into. Is I never had a musical upbringing, even though I love music and I would love to learn how to play an instrument. It's not going to happen, I don't think.
Hmm. Well, still early.
Mm.
So when you get into the gender clinic and they give you that stern look, do they do blood tests? They're like, here, let's look at other conditions. Let's give you.
Yeah,
Was there any therapy at all at any point?
they did a blood test, but they didn't really look into comorbidities, which is something I'm very passionate about now that I'm detransitioned. Like, they're not looking into comorbidities. Like, that seems like a pretty big failing. But obviously, my experience is null and void because I did HRT. So, sorry, DIY.
DIY HRT.
So take my word with a pinch of salt because I was an idiot to start off with. But
Hmm.
they don't look at comorbidities from when I went in there 2 years on DIY and I hear from other people who went, the straight and narrow, did it legitimately. They don't look at comorbidities really, or they just downright ignore them. Like Limpida was saying how depressed he was and how he's anxious and got OCD, and they were like, "Perfect, let's give you hormones then. Great, great candidate." But that was over in the US. In the UK, they still ignore it.
And so when you get the official stamp, what changes? You said there was like this kind of checklist or your obsession with yourself or your presentation or your body just went from one thing to the next to the next. Where was it
Yeah.
once you get officialed?
Well, they just upped my dosage. Like, to me, there was no change. Like, I had like biannual appointments with gender therapists, and I just tell them, "Yep, going well," and then I
Okay.
leave. Um,
And why would they up your dosage? Was there reasoning for that? It's like you don't,
because I was on a very low dosage still.
and they thought you needed more or you wanted more. Why would they give you more? Was
Well,
there reasoning?
I asked, "Am I on the right dosage?" And they were like, "Oh, you could do with a little more." So
Oh,
they upped me.
okay. Okay. Any side
Um,
effects at this point, other than the physical stuff? It doesn't seem like it's strongly impacting you.
no,
Okay.
no, I wouldn't say so. I know a lot of FTMs have a very visceral reaction to testosterone, but it's a lot stronger of a chemical to begin with. And they're on. I was surprised at, Helena, her dosage was something ridiculous, 4 times the regular male level or something, and she just asked for it. But I mean, 4 milligrams of estrogen is not gonna. Is
Sorry,
your
my
cat
cat's
misbehaving?
Yeah, he's just like laying on a box and chewing it. Maybe he'll stop. If he does it again, I'll put him out of the room. Sorry. Yeah, sorry.
I'm sure he's having a great time.
I'll be right back. There we go.
Hiya.
Hey, yeah. So, 6 years.
I was on hormones for 4 years, but
Okay.
6 years IDing as trans, yeah.
Okay. And so what's the arc of detransitioning? You mentioned Mekater's video, which is on BitChute, and it's
Yeah.
intense. It's not on
It's
YouTube.
a difficult watch. It's not on YouTube for a reason. So
Yeah.
fair warning to anyone who wants to seek it out. It's
Yeah. It's the very scared straight type of
yeah,
no holds barred.
Yeah. Well, I figured pretty quickly that I'm not gonna go down the route of SRS because I want a vagina, and I'm not gonna get one.
Okay. Which is
I just
sexual reassignment surgery, SRS.
yeah. I just wanted to be a woman at the end of the day. I wasn't interested in ideology. I wasn't interested in political activism. I just wanted to be happy, and at that point, like, my brain was very focused on my genitals and the whole social aspect of transition, which I didn't really feel like I was fitting in with the girls because I just started university. 4 years at no, wait. No, I took 2 years between finishing college and starting university to like work a dead end job, just like retail. And that wasn't really, hectic or anything. That wasn't very exciting. This because I live in the countryside, so like, I'm not going out every night. I didn't drink at all, and a drop of alcohol until I was 20, which the drinking age here is 18. So when I started university, it was like a very different world. I was in the city. I was getting invited out every night, and people were seeing me as like female at this point because I was 2 years on HRT. Like, there was no problems whatsoever with like visually passing, and I guess voice as well. I don't know. I guess it's not up for me to decide. It's up to other people to decide whether or not I passed. But if you ask me, then I was doing pretty well. I changed my name at this point once I started university legally. But it was kind of like a culture shock. It was like a second culture shock. Of the first culture shock was initially IDing as a woman, but like I wasn't really interacting with many women anyway. So, but like I was getting wolf whistled on the street, and that was a bit of a culture shock. Like, followed around by like older men. Okay. Yeah, like I women aren't exaggerating when it comes to harassment and stuff. And obviously, I have a great deal of empathy for how the other half have to live, but that was very different. But then the second culture shock was when I started university, and I was actually mixing with groups of girls, and I was like missing a lot of cues. It might have been due to autism. It might have just been due to a lack of socialization, female socialization. Both, definitely.
Yeah, female socialization, it's tricky. You gotta watch all the signs and know how to read all the whens, and there's a lot of
pop culture that I didn't understand.
yeah.
Like whatever, Sex in the City or something they would talk about.
So you started to stand out or feel?
I felt like I stood out. This was at university, kind of okay. Liberal university. Like, no one's gonna call me out, but I felt inside like I stuck out like a sore thumb. Yeah. So it was a second culture shock, for sure. But like I was having doubts about myself, not really fitting in. But like I blamed it on autism all the time. When someone would say I said something weird, just like fucking autism again. But I'm not diagnosed with autism, by the way. There's a whole, did I tell you about my brother at the beginning of this
Yeah.
discussion? Okay. Yeah. So yeah, and then kind of compounded when I saw the SRS video, and like all my doubts came to a head, sort of. And I pretty quickly decided that the whole surgery side of transitioning was a scam, and then I couldn't ignore the fact that the whole thing was a scam, if that's a scam, because they want you to get the surgery so that they can discharge you. You don't have to go to a gender clinic anymore, because once you get the surgery, you're cured, right, of your gender dysphoria, trans OCD. But yeah, I was fixated on my body parts and my socialization.
How did you stumble upon
so well.
the Mercator, how the sausage is made?
Because I was already a huge fan of Mr. Medica for years.
He's a pretty intense guy. Very entertaining man.
Yeah, he knows how to present topics in an amusing manner.
Yeah. And so when you start to have doubts, when do you make the decision to detransition? Is detransition actually something that you identify as a path, or what's the path other than just stopping hormones? Or
yeah, I say there's no barrier to detransition other than stop lying, for one, and stop taking hormones. That's, I can present as feminine as I want because I believe quite strongly in gender abolitionism. After everything that I went through at school for being femme, I wanted to escape manhood so that I could be as feminine as I wanted to be. But now I've settled on the gender abolitionist position for sure. But sex absolutist, like, you've got to acknowledge your sex. Like, you need to stop lying. It was actually eating me up inside that I was lying to everyone as well.
Did you know that you were lying, or how did the idea that you were lying get into your head?
I mean, I coped myself into the true trans ideology of having a female brain, but that actually got debunked a couple of years ago. They didn't control for homosexual, like, brain patterns or whatever. I don't know the specifics, but yeah. Also, I mentioned that I didn't really have any negative health outcomes from HRT, but that's not the case for everyone. I hear about autoimmune getting worse, and holes in the brain, like memory loss, and like blood clots, and a lot of words that I can't pronounce.
Yeah.
I mean, it's you shouldn't be taking wrong sex hormones. It's not good for you.
So it was eating up inside that you were lying.
Right.
And so how do you go through the process of not lying anymore?
Detransition is a pretty hard sell because your whole friend group is in on the trans thing, because why would you make friends with people who aren't in on the trans thing if you're trans, first of all? Even if you're stealth, like, you would be reluctant to make those kind of friends. A lot of people didn't know that I was trans, so that was, like, doubly hard to explain. Or so they said. Maybe they were just being nice. But what I'm saying is, it's like there's not really much other ways to cope with trans OCD as well, because transitioning did alleviate my trans OCD in some ways, but then of course I just moved on to other things, like I said. So I started looking at detransition just some of your podcasts came into the search results. I watched the one with Sinead, I think. Was that like 2019, early 2020?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so around that time. But it was pretty difficult for me because I was part of like a really trans positive online community, this game that I talked about earlier. So I lost a lot of favor there, especially when because I framed it in such a way that yes, we have gender dysphoria, but I don't know why this is considered the be all end all cure, or why this is the first option for treatment for gender dysphoria or trans OCD. It's a collection of comorbid issues: OCD, trauma, autism. I guess trauma like is a catch-all for being bullied and stuff, but that I was asking these illegal questions basically, so that was difficult because people suddenly did not want anything to do with me because they couldn't handle the heat. They had to keep coping because transition is just a coping mechanism for gender dysphoria. It's not, but what are the other coping mechanisms? I guess it makes more money to put all your research into funding the next big neo vagina rather than funding an actual way to cure trans OCD.
So, being honest was a step, but you still have this OCD, you still have this obsessive, just
I
your
still
brain.
struggle with dysphoria.
So your
That's
brain.
a common misconception among detrans people, is that we were never dysphoric, or we were trenders, or we were never truly trans, which truly trans doesn't exist because you're not born this way. Sorry. Or we never really had dysphoria. Well, I still struggle with dysphoria. I just stopped identifying as trans because I don't think it was helping anyway. I mean, it did help, but like being allowed to present in a feminine manner helped, right? But then I started obsessively, being self-aware about the fact that I was lying.
So how do you manage your obsession, your OCD, as you call it?
Well, I still present very, very feminine. Is
that a problem?
No, not at all. It used to be when I was at school, but I'm not at school anymore. I guess it is a problem because people don't really take me seriously as a guy. Still, I've lost job opportunities because I look like a dwarf. Well, this is what I think because
they're not going to say that.
People give me bullshit excuses, but it's people. I still get. I mean, one positive that comes from looking the way I do is that I still get child train tickets, which are half price. So that's pretty good. But then, like, security guards will follow me into the men's bathroom, and I'll get harassed in the men's bathroom. But I'm not interested in using the women's bathroom. Don't worry. But
that's why. Why would they be policing the men's bathroom?
I don't know. This has happened 3, 4, 5 times now. I've walked into the men's bathroom. It's empty. It's like during the day, and a security guard follows me in and just waits by the door, waiting for me to leave. And then one time he asked, "Are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?" I was like, "What?" I don't know. I go in the cubicle when that happens because like someone's staring at me now. Like,
yeah.
But
huh.
And then when it's late at night and there's a lot of drunk people, then I'll get like harassed, like, or sometimes it's innocent, like they'll be like, "Oh, I had to double check the sign on the door" or something. But this is my fault because I look the way I do. I don't blame them for being confused. But when it's like oi, poof, what you doing? Show us what you got,
Hmm.
It's
Rural British
it
homophobia.
yeah, I guess.
Huh.
Is it homophobia? It's just femboy phobia.
In poof? Yeah. I thought poof was a
It is a
slur.
homophobic slur, yeah.
Yeah.
But it's anything they interpret as being gay. I could not be gay, for all they know.
Yeah. So, when did you decide to detransition?
February 2020, I made it official in like May or so.
Okay. What was the legal process like?
Had to change my name back.
Oh, okay. You didn't, did you ever do the birth
I
certificate?
never
change
had
to
a
sex?
GRC,
Okay. Okay.
gender recognition certificate. Never had that. Apparently, it's really, really difficult to get that revoked.
Yeah.
So I hear.
And then
No doubt I would have.
you lost you lost your cred in certain social groups online and maybe even in person.
Yeah.
But where did you find any new friends? I mean, what's the landscape like for detransitioners?
I found a new group of friends in the same community that didn't really have anything to do with me before. Like, they didn't know about my past. Although they do now. Some of them are based. And I've met a lot of great Detrans guys who have only started popping up very recently. Like, I started speaking out about the issue about a year ago, and there was like two of us, literally two Detrans guys, and one of them, the other guy, never posted. He would log on like once a month, and we didn't really talk. But once then Peter got onto the scene, and who else? There's a guy called Twice to Sister. He's a really nice guy. He makes this really cute comic. So then it was just us three until very recently. We've been trying to do some community building, and we've got a really good cohort of people. How many people are in the male Detrans server right now?
Oh, so you guys are running a server. I see.
Yeah.
I see a small amount of you guys on Twitter.
There are 32 of us in that server.
Okay. All right.
Not all of them are Detrans though.
I think this is an inane question, but I saw that you were posting about it. Maybe it was Limpedo that was posting about it earlier today. Somebody asked, why are there so few male detransitioners? Where are they?
Who wants to hear from a what is interpreted to be a previously porn-addicted male? Well, porn did have its place as I told my story, but it was a traumatic response to porn. It wasn't an addiction. There's such a thing as traumatic, what's the word? Eroticism. I don't have that, but some of these people might. The public perception of a trans woman is, Daniel Moscato or something, or Jonathan Unive. Really horrible, nasty pieces of work, but we're just a bunch of people in our 20s. I think everyone in that server is in their 20s or early 30s. And we are all lost boys. And that's not the narrative that is out there, really. The narrative is Russell Williams, right? The serial killer who was a panty thief.
So what do males specifically need? Male detransitioners.
Less homophobia. Less, I guess, GNC phobia, because you can be gender non-conforming without being gay, right?
It goes back to that Madeline Burns quote. I'm going to butcher it, but why change the definition of woman? Why not just expand the definition of men?
Absolutely. Right. I mean, the only requirement to be a man is to be born as one. Be male. XY, penis. Deformations notwithstanding. And it's sad that people don't see it that way. Some people don't see it that way.
So men can be more accepting, and that would relieve the pressure of gender nonconforming males, or femboys, as
Yeah.
you call them.
And other people, women, can understand that calling men like toxic monsters may want to make them escape manhood in a way. That was definitely the case for me. That was one of the reasons for my transition, was I don't want to be this. And that rhetoric, got into my head. Not saying that it's, the case 100% of the time. Not saying that men aren't evil monsters. Like, I posted a tweet the other day, well, actually it was like a month ago, that said, sometimes I will look at an aggressive, rapey monster and I will attribute it to all men to hate myself. And then other days I'll look at men being called aggressive, rapey monsters and get upset. That was paraphrasing, but I wouldn't have had such a reaction if I didn't think that deep down men were evil because of my own experience, but I'm yet to commit any crimes other than piracy.
You wouldn't download... Have you downloaded a lorry? Is that what you've done?
No, I downloaded a car. I would if I could.
So
How good are 3D printers nowadays?
Yeah. They're getting pretty snazzy. So, this is a part of the conversation, the male detransitioner. And again, every detransitioner has so many different variances and so much uniqueness based on all of their stories. It does describe a single unified stance from the medical industry. It's like, okay, well, whatever, you're going to give your hormones. But there's ways that the internet has influenced your generation, and there's just different paths through that. But then there's also, because it is about transition, it's about sex, the biological sex. There's going to be differences between males and females, and
right.
Giving the mic to more males is definitely necessary, because not only is it, I think there's even psychological and social reasons for males to, once they do detransition, to not reach out, not seek help. But putting yourself out there like you're doing and Limpita's doing and other people are doing is very necessary for the downstream effects that it will help other males that want to figure out or start to question or start to experience some sort of cognitive dissonance with their identity and a reality that they're unable to ignore anymore. So there's that. What are you doing in this space then? I guess you guys are running a server now, and
yeah, no girls allowed.
Oh, good. Is that what it's called?
It's just a space. No, it's
or is that
Detrans
just
men, but
okay?
There's no girls allowed. ROTD dads are allowed in there. Guys who just want to find out about the experience are allowed in there, but no girls, because we need a space that we can just be honest with each other. And because a lot of the previous spaces that Detrans men had were like general Detrans servers, where the guys would get heavily policed by the girls who outnumbered them. And we weren't really allowed to talk about how misandry might have affected our desire to transition. And then there's other scenarios where all the guys, like 4chan 2 happened, all the guys were just encouraging each other to retransition.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. The same thing happened all over again.
Really?
Yeah. So we have to take a really hard stance on talking about HRT in such a positive manner.
Interesting. Okay. And where did that occur? 4chan 2.
That was in another Discord server that existed.
Okay.
I think it still exists, but yeah, basically they weren't policing the so-called pink pilling enough, and everyone ended up back on hormones. Just not identifying as female, because that's.
Okay.
But I guess that's just really hypocritical. Because I'm trying, I'm trying to fight against the industry, big pharma, and how we're sterilizing autistic guys and making them into lifelong patients. So, I mean, it's taking a lot of willpower for me to stay off hormones. I'm going to be honest with you.
Really?
I think, yeah, I think this is important.
Is it like what, fasting? What are you missing from it?
I do not like having testosterone in my body. The trans OCD is back, baby.
Okay.
And it's a struggle.
Is there, it's one thing to block the androgen and it's another thing to take the estrogen, right? Or does your body need the hormone?
Yeah, you need some kind of hormone in your body, otherwise
Okay.
you'll almost definitely get osteoporosis.
Okay. Yeah. And how about the medical industry? Do you have any support from them?
I'm not talking to them. I might have to soon. I'm gonna try and seek out a autism diagnosis, but that's not through the gender clinic. Like your actual general practitioner won't touch gender stuff. They just say, okay, go to the gender clinic. Bye bye.
Oh, okay.
They won't touch that kind of. Some doctors are based as hell. When I so I had a negative effect from tucking, which is when you try and hide your penis because it gets in the way when you're wearing certain clothes. Awkward. So you took it away, and that involves like pushing. Oh my god, this is kind of graphic. Pushing the testes into their cavities.
Oh.
When you get cold, right, your balls like retract. You're a guy. We're guys.
Not all the way.
Yeah. Well, tucking is a euphemism for crushing your penis and testicles for 24 hours a day. Like that's the nice way of saying it. Yeah. You are literally crushing your balls because you tape your penis down.
Okay.
Yeah, I had a negative consequence of that. So my nut, the spermatic cord twisted around itself and caused testicular torsion, which cuts off the blood supply to the testicle. So I had a very emergency surgery, and the really sad part about it is that when they told me that this could possibly end up in being an orchiectomy, I was like, yes, fuck yes. That's kind of horrible to think about your body in that way, but that's how I felt at the time. 20 years old, in the peak of my transition. That's how I was feeling, but yeah. But yeah, my doctor said to me, "Oh, you're not one of those weird non-binaries, are you?" He just came out of that like point blank, and it took me by surprise. Like I wasn't. I was a true trans. So I said, "Nah, we're cool." I did drop the trans facade for that one day though. Having surgery on my balls, kind of awkward. I didn't want to have to explain that.
Is there are you thinking about going to endocrinologist just to figure out how your body is reacting to testosterone? Because it sounds like it's a persistent. It's not just a psychological thing. It's just a.
I think it's just psychological. OCD again.
Well, I mean, the low T throughout your development, and
But I don't know how fucking with my endocrine system myself has changed that post-transition, so I don't know if I'll ever get an answer for pre-transition what was wrong with me, if there was anything wrong with me.
Well, you're cool in my book.
I appreciate that, Benjamin. You're pretty cool yourself.
Yeah, it was it's nice to stumble upon your work. I saw you on Detrans Awareness Day, this like 9-hour epic panel.
The Odyssey of Detrans.
Yeah, I watched most of it. I mean, I was playing Elden Ring, but I was listening to you guys. It was some interesting dynamics because, again, you have males and females talking about being male and female and trying not to be male and female, and then there's just conflicting ideologies pop up with certain strains of certain stances on men and stances on women, and watching.
Right.
I don't know what Stella was going through or reacting with. There was just a couple of moments where things got a little tense.
Yeah, they actually had a power cut right in the middle, and then they had to like scramble to
Oh no!
get the whole thing stay running, and yeah, like Stella was running the whole thing from her mobile phone for a while with a 4G signal.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Huh.
With like candles.
Do you have a YouTube too, right?
Yeah, so everything that I've done and do is available at clefairy.net. It's just everything I've done is on that website.
Okay.
I'll send you a link so you can put it in the description if you want.
I'll post that, and I'll post your Twitter. And anything else any resources you think that are good for specifically the Lost Boys or just detransitioners in general, or even parents?
If you are a male detransitioner or desister or questioning or trans and questioning your transition, please hit me up on Twitter. I can get you into the male detrans server. It's a very positive space. We're just, helping each other out. We're just venting to each other, and we all understand each other's issues, and it's just a nice place to be. No girls allowed. One person I want to shout out is someone who I actually found in your comment section, who makes really good videos, and he is not ever going to plug himself, so I'm going to do it for him, and that's a channel called Schrodinger's Transcat. I think his videos are really amazing. Really, really well delivered if you're autistic. If you're not, then you might have trouble watching it.
Wait, did he do like a superpower AGP anime mashup thing? Was that him?
That video, yeah, that sounds like him. He did a Portal Still Alive parody that was like an AGP self-awareness like detox video.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I'll check him out, but no, he's wonderful in my comment field. I didn't even think to click on. It's difficult as a creator. I don't know who has an active channel, who's not. So it's nice to know.
He's never going to shout himself out, so I'll give him the shout out. And he's currently doing series on like everything to do with trans boys, just everything, because he's like a desister, I think. He never went through with it, but he understands the male perspective in transition, and he's really going into detail about it in a very entertaining manner. If you're a Spurg, anyway. he uses a lot of dated pop culture references and like splices in old footage from TV shows.
Oh, so you're getting a little pop culture education while you're watching.
I'm pretty old.
Well,
in the long term of the internet nowadays.
Yeah, in terms of internet, yeah.
Everyone else is 14.
Or a Fed. Or
yeah,
both.
for sure.
All right, Robin. Well, thank you for joining me on my channel. Thank you for sharing your experience, and thanks for standing up and speaking out.
I appreciate you having me on. Talk to you whenever.
Whenever. I'll end the recording.
Whenever.
So it's 9 over there, right? It's 8 o'clock? No, 7 o'clock.
10 past 9.